Hi everyone, it's Ali here with more songwriting tips for you. Today we're going to look at how to write a song hook, and we're specifically going to look at the melody. If you've been writing song hooks but you're struggling to write anything catchy or that you think's any good, today I'm going to go over some tips on how you can improve them and what you can look to change to make your song hooks better. So coming up, my top tips on how to write a song hook. So what is a song hook? A song hook is a combination of the song's key melody and lyric. It's the catchy phrase of the song the listener will remember long after the song has finished. It makes the song stand out, catches your attention, and takes you somewhere. Everything else in the song points back to the song hook. So should you start your song hook with a lyric or a melody? It doesn't really matter which one you start with. Whichever one you start with, it must be a strong starting point. It must have either a very strong melody or a very strong lyric. So which part of the song hook should you write first? It doesn't really matter whether you start with the melody first or the lyrics first, as long as the end result gives you an effective, catchy song hook. Generally these days people will write the melody first because, as the saying goes, melody is king, and it's a lot easier to write a catchy melody first and then add lyrics to it than it is to start with lyrics and manage to write an effective melody based on the lyrics. Once the rhythm's locked in with the lyrics, it's often hard to then write a catchy melody around it because, as we'll find out later on, rhythm is a key part of a catchy melody. It also doesn't matter whether you write the song hook first and then write the rest of the song, or whether you just start at another point in the song, say you start off with the verse and then come to your chorus later and write the song hook within that process of writing the chorus. But I think generally it's a lot easier to start with the song hook. Again, because the song hook is your main idea of the song, it's that central idea. It's a lot easier to focus on that first and then write the song around it than it is to write the rest of the song and then try and work out what you were trying to say overall in the song at the end. If you're struggling with your song having a key theme and it perhaps gets lost as you write the rest of the song, I recommend starting out by writing the song hook first and then writing the rest of the song based on that. So we're now going to specifically focus on the melody. We're going to look at what it takes to write an effective melody for our song hook. Now, a melody is made up of rhythm, pitch, in the case of song hook, repetition, and also the placement of the song hook within the chorus. So first, let's focus on the rhythm of our melody. A lot of great melodies have great rhythm. If you're struggling to write an effective melody, the first thing you should look at is the rhythm of your melody. If you don't have great rhythm, you're making the pitch of your melody do an awful lot of work. It's much easier to write a really catchy rhythm, and then with a few pitches, just a couple of different notes, you can really write an effective melody. If you look at a lot of the top melodies of the top 40 today, you'll often find they're very, very simple when it comes to pitch. They might only have one or two, perhaps three notes maximum that they use within the pitches of their melody. A lot of what makes it an effective melody in that song is just down to the rhythm alone. So just use a simple pulse, just a 4-beat pulse, and just try clapping or singing with one pitch different melodies over the top. Try coming up with as many different rhythmic ideas as you possibly can. The more you have, the better. It's great to have some contrast too, so if you've got some ideas that are very busy with a lot of notes in it, also come up with some interesting rhythmic ideas that have a lot fewer notes in. That way you can use different combinations within your melody to really help add interest throughout the whole of your melody. Next, we want to focus on the pitch of our melodies. Take the melodies you created before and start adding pitches to them. As you do this, focus on the feeling that's created by the different pitches you use. Each interval tends to have a different feeling associated with it, and you need to make sure this ties in really well with the theme of your song. Be careful that you don't use too many pitches when you write your melody. Although you may have used quite a busy rhythm, you really don't need to use that many pitches along with it. It's better to let the rhythm do a lot of work and use just a few pitches to really add to that melody. You don't need to use them all by any means. If you look at a lot of top 40 hits, you'll find that they use very few notes, particularly in the hook. Sometimes it's anywhere between 1 and 3 notes. They don't use that many at all, and you don't need to do it either. I'd recommend keeping it simple and just sticking to a few pitches. I'd also recommend experimenting with starting and ending your melodies on different intervals. Often we can get into habits of just using the same intervals over and over again to start and end our melodies, and particularly when we've written quite a few songs, this is going to start getting really boring. I know for me, I tend to end my melodies on the root quite a lot, and after a while this started getting really boring, so I've had to try and force myself to use different pitches. Sometimes it happens automatically and you don't really need to worry about it too much, but being aware of it and trying out different ideas, different intervals if you get bored and you get stuck can be a really good idea. I'd also recommend you think about the climax of your melody, making sure it's really got a satisfying climax, that it's really arrived somewhere when you get to the end of that hook. There's nothing worse than going through a hook and feeling like you've not actually arrived anywhere, that there's more that could have come. You really want to make sure that that song hook is incredibly satisfying. That's what's going to make people want to listen to it over and over again. Little point to bear in mind too, if you've written the pitches to your melody on an instrument, after you've written that melody, really take it and listen back to it and make sure that you can sing it. If it was on the radio or you were playing it to people at a gig, you want them to be able to sing along. And if you've written it on an instrument, sometimes they're not that singable, and that can be what might be hampering your melodies. The next thing we need to think about is the placement of our song hook. Where's that song hook going to come within this chorus? Often this is going to be either the first or last line, but very occasionally you'll get something different and it might be in the second or third, or if you've got a lot of lines in your chorus, it may be somewhere different. But generally it's going to be either that first or last line, so if you've not put it there, I'd recommend trying it in one of those two places. The last part of the melody we're going to take a look at is, of course, repetition. Our brains absolutely love repetition, and it's one of the most effective songwriting tools we have. You don't have to listen to too many pop hits to realise how important repetition is in writing a great song hook. It's not just lyrical repetition, it's melodic repetition too. And it's not necessarily just the whole phrase, but often the individual little phrases within those longer phrases, where often you might have the first part of the phrase repeated while the second half alters. And we're going to look at a lot of different examples so you can see what I mean. So here we have the chorus to Firework by Katy Perry. Here you can see there's a repeated phrase followed by a contrasting repeated phrase. This is a good example of how simple but effective using repetition can be within a song. Next we have Fix You by Coldplay. This is a slight variation on the previous example. The first phrase is repeated twice, while the second phrase is split up into two, with the first part of that phrase being repeated from the earlier phrase, with a contrasting idea added on to the end. This is a great example of how you can break up some of the longer phrases and then repeat some of those shorter phrases. These are just a few examples of how you can use repetition within your song hooks. I recommend analysing the songs you like and analysing your own songs to try and gain a better understanding of how to use repetition within your song hooks. Experiment, see what works, and you'll find you get a lot better song hooks after you've really understood how to use repetition. So once you've been through these tips and you feel you've got a really good song hook, I recommend playing it to some friends. When you play it to them, take note of how they respond to it. How quickly do they pick up on the song hook? Are they able to sing it accurately? Or do they change it when they sing it back to you? If you pay attention to these things, you can then take your song hook and hone it even further and make your song hook even more effective. So I hope these tips have helped. I hope you'll find it much easier to write an effective song hook in the future. We'll look at lyrics later, so check back for that. If you haven't done already, please like and subscribe below, and I'll see you again in the next video.